Basically, my mission is tell a few words about how on earth you can take your company, startup idea, whatever you've been working on, to the world. Because these days it's all about the attention, right? I mean, whatever you do, it's all about attention. Whether you try to run the world for the good or bad or for whatever, you just have to find attention. Why I'm the good person to speak about it, I have 20 plus years in international media, worked for half of my career for Reuters, a lot of other outlets. And then in the last 5 years, I've been deep in the startup world. Was building my own startup 5 years ago for maybe 10 months before it failed badly. I mean, part of life, right? If it ain't failed, you haven't built a startup. But then I've been going around in accelerators in the Baltic Sea region, in Finland, Estonia, Latvia, and telling people about how to get your story out. Finding your story, whatever you are doing, and then getting it out. And then in 2014, we launched a paper magazine about startups. I mean, as this is a digital summit about touching things, you know, analog is the actual product where you can actually touch things physically. So I think it's a good way for me to start. Other people will be speaking later about much more digital things. For me, communications is just business. I mean, you need to have some business objectives. You want to raise money. You want to find new clients. That's why you get the word out. Otherwise, it's totally pointless. This is the 10 months of our startup. Not too many startups can claim that a year before having any product, we were actually demoing the MVP on live television. And it worked, the demo. And we were all over the media locally. But being there 12 months before the product, it was totally pointless for us. We had nothing to do with that publicity. I mean, we had no client list, we had nothing to sell, no contact list to build. A pointless exercise. Of course, these days there are easier things. For example, we launched 2 years ago a distillery in Estonia. We launched it we launched the company in October. We opened, of course, all the social media accounts like 6 months before. These days, it's almost normal, right? You shouldn't build a product first and then start to sell it. You can first start to sell it and then build the product. And of course, we're going on a little bit, of course, the attention span grew fast when you actually had the user base out there. Comms is a long process. Of course, it would be really helpful for the future conferences if you would have another screen there. Basically, to get the story out, you actually have to get to know the people. So with some journalists who've been writing about the company, I've known them probably for 10 years. If they are in trouble, they give me a call or send me a message asking for advice for building their company or advising on their career. And that way, you know, if I have a story to tell, I can be certain that I will be, you know, with a barrier to access for media is lower for me with this journalist than the others. So it's really about building your professional network. You know, classical networking. When you go out, meet those people, shake their hands, get to know what interesting stuff you're doing, who you are, why you matter. This was a long piece about our distillery in Estonia's largest weekly, which was launched. Basically, the story was published like 3 months after we launched the product. The benefit for us at that point was that we found our lead investor through that story. He read that story, called us up saying that, hey, I'm interested. Are you raising money? And as a company, you know, thinking about raising money, that's the best position. If you're desperately trying to tackle those guys kind of out of blue, to find the contacts to get access to them, then you're kind of in a weaker position already, or having the weaker hand. If they actually start to contact you, then for that, media could be the strong power. Also the print media, because this was a printed piece. Sometimes it's really difficult to reach the journalists. We look obnoxious, or we are not responding to our emails, or we might seem lazy that we don't want to do our work. I mean, in reality, it's about this. This is me sitting in a newsroom, a bit younger, maybe like 10 years. Look at the amount of screens there. That's the kind of, you think about the attention span of the Twitter generation, or the 140 characters. For a typical journalist, it's 7 screens you're competing against. On one screen, there pops up your email with desperate cry that we are building the best thing in the world, would you write about us? Likelihood, people have to understand what the hell are you doing. And they need to see very clearly why on earth would it matter for them to actually spend any time on your idea. What matters is the story. Eventually communications, reaching out to the world, is a storytelling business. It has to be memorable, it has to have pictures in it, it has to have some visuals why people care later. And you have to think like a reader of that media outlet. If you're talking to a journalist of the local biggest business daily, the readers are probably local businessmen. They care about numbers. If you talk about to the paper, kind of largest weekly here, which is probably read by more females and about the older generations, you should not talk about your latest tech gadgets features. People have the journalist will not print it, and they will lose their interest very quickly. So, in a way, that's the nut graph for any startup getting the word out. Because eventually only the story matters. Somebody tried to pitch me with this quote, not thinking like a reader, not thinking like a journalist. If I'm a journalist getting this quote and would think that, would I print that quote in my publication? Basically what this startup is saying, that it says that we are honored and lucky and we want money. And being a journalist, would I put into the story a quote, somebody telling me that he's honored and lucky and wants money with 1,000 words? Not really. Tell the real stories instead of the bullshit like this Swedish guy was doing. This is how Cofounder was born. 4 guys having maybe 3 beers each, because we were in Finland. It was 8 euros a beer, I think. 2 young guys, 2 old guys, 2 old guys from the old media, and 2 young guys from the online media. And basically, we were pitching the idea to the young guys, saying that there is a business case here. We know how we can turn this into a business. You guys know how to connect it with the startup community. Let's make it happen. And of course, after 3 beers, it was a done deal, right? We've been doing it now for 4 years, been all over the world in different conferences, really focused with the business on conference distribution. Another real story, how we launched, how Distillery was born. This is half a mile from our home on the island in the Baltic Sea. They're all juniper trees. And to make gin, the only key ingredient is juniper. So one day, my wife came back from the walk by those trees and comes with the idea that there used to be a distillery in our village, let's put it up again. And in our distillery was born this guy, Russian admiral who found Antarctica. So we were like, okay, we have a story, what should we do with it? Distillery, chap who found Antarctica, juniper trees. I'm a journalist. She's a fashion designer. Alcohol industry, no idea. Sometimes consuming it, yes, but no idea about the industry, how it works, how the products are done, how you sell it. But now we've been, learning it. This is the first product we launched last summer. Now, a year and a half into it, we are selling it in 4 countries today, and growing country by country. From the startup perspective, it's about getting your feet between the door, 1 foot, 2 feet, whatever, and hacking it somehow. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Me in Estonia's largest business daily. The key point here is thinking visual and preparing for it. The journalist was asking somewhere in the social media that, hey, I'm doing a piece on trademark. Has any one of you had anything to do recently about trademarks? I was like, yeah, me. Gave her a few comments, and then she gives him a call saying that, hey, I'm sending the photographer over. So if a photographer is coming over, we looked for the bench. Thankfully, we had already dog, otherwise I would have probably borrowed the dog. Took the magazine with a beautifully contrasting cover. It was an old issue at that point. And, it was a spread of the magazine. I got, full page, basically. Just a picture of me. The other example, 2 weeks ago, in Estonia's largest daily. In the same article, they had actually also females. And they put me, the most handsome guy out there, on half-a-page picture. But preparing for it, I actually went to one of the top bars in Tallinn, asked from the guy who's owning it, that could you open a few hours earlier, I have a photographer coming to make pictures. And then we staged the picture there. He got actually, interesting picture enough to print it. And of course, I had to do the work. But, I was also the winner, so I don't mind. Or this Finnish guy, he goes to every single startup event with his O logo, which is massive. It's like this, he walks around. But he gets like dozens of photos every single time. He's been in a big newspapers. Nobody knows probably about his startup, but he gets so much publicity just because he has been thinking visually. He says that it's been a challenge to go to maybe, China or Japan, travel with that O letter, just, try to put it in an airplane, right? But so far, so good. This is a short story coming to the end. The Russian startup was pitching to me about how they were trying to build something, then they failed, they pivoted, started to do something again, then they failed again, and I was like, you're lovely guys, but, that's what startups should be doing. Where's the story for me? And then in the end of the discussion, sometimes late in Tallinn, one Wednesday evening, the guy mentions that, yeah, but last weekend we were climbing the Tallinn mayor office. I was like, climbing the office? Yeah, from outside to the top. As a journalist, I was thinking, wow, what a picture I can make for that. Have the Tallinn Old Town on the background in lights and the 2 guys on top of the mayor's building. I gave a call to my photographer asking that, hey, can you make it happen? And he was like, Tarmo, I don't want to end up in police. So that's what they staged then. They didn't climb the city mayor office, but they went jumping into the remains of some building and got spread in the magazine with that picture. So one more thing here. The same thing with your startup, have pictures ready. This is some Irish tech site which was writing about our blog which was writing about our distillery. These are actual juniper berries, ready picked. That's how blue they are. And of course the picture was played big, our own picture made all the sense in the world. So basically, thinking visual has massive power. Whatever you do, to tell your story to the world, you have to polish the punchline or the nut graph, what on earth are you doing, why it's different. But actually kind of getting across that barrier, it could be that you have a massively good picture, or you have something really visual, people can use pictures. Because yeah, journalists write, but All the stories have something visual in it if they actually travel anywhere. Thank you.